Okay, so this one is Accelerating Pedal 1 of Transformation 2.0. Oh, good Lord, we've seen a lot about this subject. Says it's from MG Quirk, USA Signals Intelligence Director, et cetera, and Dan Wolf, Information Assurance Director. Is that in any way significant, Susie, before I read the rest of this, or?
No, I don't think so. It's just IAD.
Okay, cool. This is an important and exciting moment in our history. NSA is providing an unprecedented variety of offensive and defensive services seamlessly to our customers and national security partners. The global convergence of information networks and technologies, coupled with the compelling need to share information broadly, challenge us to do even better. Our vision is to live on the net always, shape it sometimes, own the net as needed, and protect the net from those who wish to do our nation harm. This calls for increasing the jointness of our operations in many ways. I think that sentence is noteworthy in and of itself. That one, the one in quotation marks, yeah. Own it and protect it, yeah, from maybe activists and peaceful protesters. Anyway, on 20th of January, during another series in this of SID and IAD offsites, we discussed the NSA and CSS landscape. We chartered a small team of leaders to think holistically about NSA functions and to develop creative options for rapid movement towards a much more joint operating posture. We expected the team to report out quickly and will then engage broadly within our organizations to identify the best way forward in the interest of the agency and our customers. And then it says the SID and IAD team's output will move us forward to develop the best approach to accomplishing all of NSA's critical mission functions. We will map near and long-term strategies to solidify NSA's future as a key member of the US intelligence and defense communities. So yeah, no, that sentence in quotation marks is the other thing that really stuck out to me as useful to quote in an article. I mean, I would absolutely use that.
Once again, it's back to the general attitudes, right? Same thing as we see time and time again with the global network. The word shape is very interesting to me. Shape is sometimes. How precisely do they shape it? And that to me sounds like harkening back to the document where they talked about wanting to influence the direction of the development of various technologies. When they talk about shaping the net, it sounds like they have a finger in the pie of the future of the internet.
At least I think they do. I mean, yeah, that's their self-concept for sure.
To me, shape the internet means network. They're talking about network architecture.
Mm-hmm.
And if they're wanting to shape the network architecture, then they really are interfering in the very structure of the internet and the development of the internet.
And I think that's really significant, or at least that's relatively new to me. I mean, I know that I had known that the NSA, had an extremely wide net of information that they were collecting. I knew about the collections, but I didn't know that they were actually involved in the architecture of the internet itself. I think that's noteworthy, unless everyone else already knew that. And I just somehow missed it.
I think it's covert. I don't think it's overt at all.
Yeah.
I mean, when you look at all the people who we call like the fathers of the internet, the Tim Berners-Lees and even the John Perry Barlows and stuff, these are all like information anarchists. These are like people who believe like in freedom of thought, freedom of expression, freedom of speech. And this is the opposite of that. This is the control of it. This
Very
is
much.
Yeah, this is antithetical to the principles, and I've been having a bit of a paradigm shift myself, where I think that a lot of the language around the promise of the internet and what we are sold by the information activism community may well just be a veneer. Because I suspect that, because the two things sit in diametric opposition to each other. On one side, we have the internet freedom, internet speech, not crypto anarchist, but information anarchist movement, the John Perry Barlows, the Tim Berners-Lees, the good intentions, like the good intentions. On the other side, we have the fact that we know that the military was originally a military network that has been funded and developed by the military, that the military is pouring billions of dollars into creating this control mechanism. So it seems like it's what it's promoted as is not what it actually is. And there's this conflict between the two things.
It's a major, major point. And I think it's one that definitely needs to be made, and people need to understand that dichotomy.
I almost feel like the promotion of the feel-good stuff about the internet disarms us.
Yeah.
Not just disarms us. No, it's not disempowers us. It's like a sleight of hand.
Yeah, it's like gaslighting.
It's like sleight of hand. I wouldn't call it gaslighting. Gaslighting would be if they say, aha, we never promised you that, we never told you that.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's not the case, but it's like sleight of hand. It's like while we are focusing on the idealistic vision of the internet, we are not confronting the realistic situation with the internet.
The nuts and bolts, yeah. That makes sense.
It's like, I don't know, the lipstick on the pig or something. Like it's like what lies beneath the surface is not what's being promoted.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it's part of the manipulation process. It's like creating the fantasy that you believe in order to create in order to make the cognitive dissonance not something that you confront. You have to have a fantasy that you believe in, just like, Democrats voting for Hillary Clinton had to believe in the fantasy that was created around her that wasn't the reality. No, that's the same thing I see going on with what you're talking about.
I mean, look, I'm looking right now at my Twitter timeline, and I'll share it, and you guys just have a look at what's at the top of my Twitter timeline right this moment, okay? Anonymous Video, who's a very cool account. I know them, and I've known them for years. They're amazing. Yeah. And look at what this says. Tor guide, freedom and privacy online. Tor is an invaluable tool for protecting online freedom and guarding against state surveillance and censorship. We know from reading the Chelsea Manning documents that specifically it was stated in her oral testimony at her court-martial hearing. We know that Tor is an integral part of the NSA software kill chain. So this means that the traffic that you generate on the Tor network masks kill traffic from the military. So this is why Tor needed to grow into the public space, because they needed Tor traffic to not only be military kill chain traffic that would be of high interest to other intelligence agencies, other military services. They dilute the traffic pool by having as many different types of users as possible use it, but then they turn around and target anyone who uses the Tor network as well. So the military is using the public to protect itself, and at the same time targeting the public who had enough of an interest in privacy or security to want to use Tor in the first place.
Very, very important point.
Yet, and please understand, I'm not saying don't use Tor, because Tor is a lifesaver for a lot of people, but it's also really dangerous. And not only is it dangerous, it's tainted. When you are using Tor, you are helping to disguise, to mask, to dilute the kill traffic in war zones. And that is something that is never, ever, ever made clear. So by the privacy activist community, and this is my community. I've been working with these people for years. They have good intentions, good hearts, but they sold this propaganda. And the propaganda is it's all about privacy and security and protecting us. But actually what we're doing is protecting the military. Because if no one was using Tor, then it would be known that 100% of the Tor traffic was operational information of the military. So if you go to Tor's website, Tor says like law enforcement uses this product. They do not say the NSA and CIA use this product to prosecute, kill and capture and kill operations in Iraq and in Afghanistan and in other war zones. The encryption and the network encryption, I assume, I don't know this part yet, but I assume, of the drones is probably running through Tor. So people don't understand really what they're dealing with or what they're a part of.
Yeah.
And yet it's sold to them. It's sold to them as being this great thing, this wonderful thing for freedom and for security and for blah, 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 blah. I think that's personally, I think it's pretty significant. So like I said, I'm not saying don't use Tor, but be aware of what it is.
Yeah.
Be aware of what it is. And also, as I've made the point before in my writing, and as I believe is also pertinent, yes, they will target you for being a Tor user, but you're already targeted by mass surveillance.
Yeah, no, that's how
if you don't use Tor, you are in the dragnet anyway. They already have your communications anyway, and thanks to mass surveillance. If you do use Tor, then you are subjected to targeted surveillance. So it's a like no escape situation in that regard.
Yeah, total catch-22 for everyone, definitely.
Completely. But I've started to, this is a recent thing for me to really cotton on to like some of the marketing. This is what it is. It's marketing. When you go to the Tor website and they say, oh, well, you know, some local police officers use it for doing web searches. Like this marketing. It's pure and simple marketing. And when you see it's about privacy and freedom and to blah, 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 it is also marketing. Yes, individuals use it for those reasons, but that's not why it was developed. The US Navy developed Tor and funded Tor, and they did not do it so that individual users could have privacy and security. They did it for the support of military operations. And to this day, it's being used in support of military operations.
Yeah, that deserves an entire article in itself that you should write because of your background with tech and your understanding of how that works. I mean, I think that's worth a definite discussion in and of itself, for sure.
The hard thing is that there's no solution to it. So like the solution isn't don't use Tor, and the solution isn't do use Tor, but at least be informed about what it really is, what it's been used for.
Well, I think that would be literally the thesis of an article about it would be like, I'm not here to tell you to use it or not. And there's no answer. There's no right option here, but just you need to be aware of what the reality is.
I feel like I don't want to like deter people, like, because I mean, like information activism is really important and privacy activism is really important. These are things that people should be caring about and should be spending their time on. But I just also see how the narratives of that type of activism are slapped on top of things that are actually like evil.
Definitely. I agree.
And then sold to us, right? So every person who's running around like promoting, or not just promoting Tor, but regurgitating those specific marketing lines is literally like doing the job of the government that's funding people to do that in the first place.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's important to point out, whether it's in an article or something else, or just the discussion we're having, just to raise awareness of that fact and not tell people to make decisions on how to use it one way or the other. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think pointing out a fact is not the same thing as telling you what to do about it. And yeah.
Cockatoo just said, oh my God, so if real activists went silent for a day on Tor, what would be left would be most interesting to see. I think it would be a massive, massive spanner in the works for them if for a very short period of time, absolutely all civilian traffic on Tor stopped. I think that would be extremely, just from an analytical perspective, just as a like project, right? Because you're correct. What you'd be left with is a whole bunch of law enforcement and military operational traffic, network traffic, and not very much else. And a bunch of spy agencies too who also use it. Definitely. And that also is why they were so keen on controlling the backbones of the Tor network. It was why, in my opinion, it's why Jacob Appelbaum's Tor bridge server was taken out. It's why the entire board of Tor was taken out and replaced. This was what they were really going after. So Jacob Appelbaum's Tor bridge server, I think it was one of 7 of Tor bridges in the network. It was a confirmed NSA target in the Snowden files, actually. They confirmed, the files confirmed that Jacob Appelbaum's server was an NSA target. So by taking him out of the equation as a Tor admin, gave them more control over the entire network itself.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes really unfortunate logical sense.
Yeah, and so if you ignore the screaming cries of Jacob Appelbaum as a serial rapist, and you look at what was done other than firing and vilifying him, what was done was the entire board of Tor was rolled. The ex-EFF legal director, Shari Steele, was installed as the not chief executive, what is it, executive director at Tor Project. Her husband is a self-admitted known NSA contractor. The first thing that they did was go after the infrastructure, target and remove Jake's Tor bridge. That bridge is what they wanted. Yeah. It's like a pillar of the network, and they smashed the pillar down. And that was what they were after. They weren't just trying to destroy his reputation. That was kind of like a bonus for them. Like, it was a bonus that he would no longer be able to get on stages and speak about things that are happening with, wow, RSFO. Yeah, wow. I'm just reading what's being said there.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, them being able to stop him speaking on stages and supporting targets and doing the things that he was doing was like a bonus. What they really wanted, it was a coup. It was a literal coup, not just of the leadership at Tor, but it was an appropriation of the infrastructure. And then if you look at, I'm not going to like make any personal accusations here, but if you look at who got his job after the fact, and then if you look at who became the admin of the Tor bridge after the fact, because a new Tor bridge was established, and you look at who it was that established that bridge, it tells the true story about what happened to Jake.
Are you going to write about it at some point, Susie?
Dude, I gave that story 3.5 weeks of my life in 2016 and damn near got myself excommunicated from the Berlin community for doing so.
No, I've read a couple of things.
Funnily enough, you know, this is actually really amusing to me. Funnily enough, all of the best people, the best, most respected top people in the Berlin community loved me and stood by me. But the seething masses in Berlin, who were really the target of the info op against Jake, were just so shocked that I didn't fall into line and that I didn't uphold the narrative. You know, I was not supposed to rebel against the social pressure. Like, the social pressure was supposed to shame everybody or really scare everybody into supporting the narratives against Jake. It was like, well, everybody else is saying he's a rapist, therefore I must believe he's a rapist. And if I don't believe he's a rapist, what will my friends say about me? What will my friends think about me? You know, like there's this real, it's funny because the community in Berlin really prides themselves on being like strong individuals and anti-establishment. But something I found there is that they actually there's a lot of conformity. It's like people who go out of their way to display their differences, like the pink hair and the, I did the same thing when I was a teenager. Like, when I was a teenager, I had like whatever black lipstick and like all the whatever, manifestation. Yeah. Look at me, I'm so individual, I'm so out there, I'm so punk, I'm so blah, blah, blah. But they are the most obsessed with conforming with their peer groups and having the approval of their peer group. So I think I was lucky that I was a bit older and less, I mean, I had a different domestic situation. I'm a mother. I'm not dependent in my physical space on my social circle in that way. I have a bit more intellectual independence. My opinions come from mega hours of research rather than from what people tell me. I don't just repeat, you know, because three of my friends tell me Jake's a rapist, I'm not going to believe Jake's a rapist. But if I study and I discover that Jake's a rapist, then I believe Jake is a rapist. And this is the difference. So it was, and also I've got to say, a huge thank you to the spies that persecuted the hell out of me and smeared the hell out of me, because having gone through so much defamation in New Zealand and so many attempts to destroy like all my relationships, you know, in the activism community as well as personally, meant that I was like emotionally insulated from any fear of what people would think about me in Berlin for standing up for Jake and for doing research. So before I wrote it, I mean, this the other misconception is I didn't just like go, okay, I think Jake's not a rapist, so I'm going to write these articles. I put unbelievable amounts of hours into researching all of the different aspects. And that was when I started to discover all of these anomalies and all of these things that did not support the narrative that was being circulated. And so that was why I spoke up and why I did that work.
It's extremely important that you did. And you wrote an amazing series of articles. And anybody who hasn't read those should definitely go read them. They're insanely important and awesomely written. So,
yeah, I really, it was a journey writing them. And in that final part, the part 3, there's actually 4 articles, but in the one labeled part 3, which is the biggest, longest and massive one, it's like 9,000 words or something. It's really interesting because all the facts converged, and then it's like I managed to peel back the layers of all of these different accusers and all the different things that were being said about him, and got right to that very root of the issue. And that core, when you read it at the end, the conclusion is so intuitive, because it's like when you weed away all of the crap, you know what I mean? You finally get to the root of the issue, and that's exactly what we did. So I think it was quite a unique article in that sense. It was like, it really solved the riddle. It solved the riddle of why and how this happened.
And it's actually really awesome, as you're saying, that, you know, the abuses of intelligence agencies actually forged you into somebody that would be able to be motivated to actually go and seek that out. You know, it's like
it made you caring. I'm so used to any relationship I form being interfered with, or anyone that supports me, you know, being interfered with, and so used to my name being and my reputation being smeared that I had nothing to fear. There's nothing to fear. So in that sense, it's like they prepared me. All the shit.
That's what I mean. It's
It prepared me to take the hate. And I mean, it took a lot of hate, but I was able to like brush it off my shoulder and keep moving, because that's what I've already been conditioned to do. So
I definitely think that most people would not react by getting stronger. They'd probably fall apart. I would probably be one of those people. So I think that's awesome. And I'm really glad that, you know.
Indignation is the key.
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad. I'm really glad that.
Indignation is the key, honestly. Like, don't get sad, get pissed off, and then get even. Like, and I don't mean that in a malicious way. I'm not going after these people individually. I'm not trying to punish them or anything. But the evil things they do are so self-evident. You know, it's it just convinces me over and over again. Every nasty thing that they do, it convinces me these people, there's something wrong with them. And there's something right in us standing up to them. So
definitely, I think it's a great takeaway from that.
Cockatoo, if you go to archive.org, I'm pretty sure there will definitely be hundreds of impressions of those articles. I think the Indicter has part 1 and part 2, but it hasn't got the other 2 articles. And I think the best one for you guys to read, rather, because the entire series is something like 21,000 words, like it's literally like a short book. But part 3 has a recap of each of the previous pieces. So if you want to spend some time in looking into my investigation into Jakegate, I would suggest that you just go and read part 3 and skip the earlier stuff. Part 1 was just, I did a linguistic analysis of the rape stories and showed the whopping great inconsistencies between actual rape testimony and the manufactured tripe that was shoved up on that website. And then in part 2, I talked about the fact that WikiLeaks was the real target. Jake's affiliation with WikiLeaks, his work with WikiLeaks, Jake being targeted by the FBI, Jake's Tor bridge server being an NSA target, my personal experience of being targeted when I was circulating work by Jake and supporting Jake's work in New Zealand, and looked into some of the other people who are on the fringes and being involved in targeting Jake. But then part 3 was where I really peeled back the layers of bullshit, like one by one, of all the different accusations, and got down to the core of it was the whodunit article. And by the end, there was an actual whodunit. And that's well worth reading. And that also covers off all of the Tor stuff in part 3. I'm surprised I can even still remember this, since it's like now nearly 2 years ago, a year and a half ago. All the Tor stuff's in there. The Tor working with the New York Times to do an exclusive rape findings article, and like who does an exclusive deal with a mainstream media publisher about the findings of an internal rape investigation? Like, the whole thing was just absolutely batshit crazy.
Definitely.
And everything that happened in terms of the board being rolled and the coup at Tor. So that, I think part 3 was definitely the strongest part. Like, part 1, I had sneaking suspicion something was wrong, and part 2, I was like starting to get to the core of the issue, but by part 3, I actually nailed it, totally nailed it. And I'm not saying that to sing my own praises at all, but I'm saying that because the subject matter is so important and significant. It was literally a man's life, but it wasn't just a man's life. It wasn't just Jake's life. It was, Jake was traveling around the world. This is what he did. Not just speaking on stages. He was traveling around the world and finding targets of the intelligence agencies and then supporting them, giving them technical support, analyzing their hardware, isolating the systems, the malware that had been installed on their devices, and then getting up on stages and telling the whole world, these are the methodologies that are in use. Here's this example of this target and that target and the other target. He was working with Cage in the UK, who are the ex-Guantanamo Bay detainees. He was working with WikiLeaks. Like, he was working on the most significant, most high-profile, most high-risk things in the world. And people who try to tell you, oh, that's irrelevant to the situation. No, it is not fucking irrelevant. Yeah. It is not irrelevant when you're an NSA target and an FBI target, and when you're supporting other NSA targets and FBI targets. That is highly relevant. Highly relevant. Agreed. And I think it's a big shame that so much of the community allowed themselves to just watch a pillar fall without saying a word. I think it's actually really shameful. Not only is it shameful, but it's dangerous. It's dangerous because it empowers the agencies to just run that shit over and over again. Pick a new target, run the same playbook.
Exactly.
And I wasn't prepared to watch that happen and say nothing.
Definitely.
Okay.